Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Kelly and Anna, and we are back again after Resurrection Sunday.
Woohoo!
Yeah. So excited to be here today and excited for what God's going to do.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, how was your week, Anna? Oh, it's birthday week too.
Yes, so I had an amazing Sunday. It was my birthday on Resurrection Sunday. What better day?
Yeah,
it's
that's
like
awesome.
having a birthday that falls on Christmas. Like,
Yeah.
yes. And so it was amazing. My husband has been so amazing. So there was lots of joy, but there was lots of grief too. So my grandma passed away last Monday. And so grief is weird. It is a weird process and emotion. And so during the week there was a lot of crying.
Absolutely.
And then there would be times where you can laugh at a joke and you still can do dishes, and I still went to work, and I just tried not to talk about it during work. And shout out to all my ladies for my breakfast group who were praying for me. I asked them for prayer so I could get through my second work day, because I felt like I just, when you're sometimes in grief, it hits you where you can't do anything. Like you feel like you just can't do anything. And I learned that those are the moments to be still and worship.
Because it reminds you of what else when death comes. What else do you have?
Yeah.
I mean, I've had a lot of death in my family in the earlier years, and that was the one, I think, as horrible as it was, that was one thing he taught me was, I know I hear that said all the time, that when you die, that's all you have. Or, when things go wrong, the things around you can shake and fall away. But if you don't have him, you don't have strength. You don't have anything. So it's just a reminder, too. I cut you off. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's so good. Thank you. Yes. And so even in the midst of grief, it's okay. And I had to tell myself, because I come from, my family can be very dysfunctional. Like every family has their own dysfunction. But I've realized now, after going through healing and deliverance, that my family does not know how to grieve. They do not know how to grieve. And so part of that process is they shut it off, and then they
bottle it up.
Yes. Or just close the door on that, and they're in heaven, and so we don't need to cry, we don't need to do, and it's grief is normal. And I love that our Savior Jesus, the Bible says that he was acquainted with grief, and he was a man of sorrow, and he was very much acquainted with grief and sorrow and rejection, and what all those emotions are. And so I can come to Jesus in my grief, because he knows exactly what it feels like, and even to greater depths than I can
I
imagine.
Think he was grieving with Lazarus.
Yes,
is that right?
He did. Yes.
And he knew he was going to resurrect him.
Yes. And he felt that grief.
I think he felt other people's grief, and just. Can you imagine? I mean, sometimes you see somebody else going through something, and you're like, oh, well, is it that bad or whatever? And then it happens to you, and you're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Not that God doesn't have any idea, but he actually experienced what we experience. And yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. So I can always, it was great. I can run to the Father, and that's the hope we have in Jesus. We have the hope of the resurrection. We have the hope of when our loved ones die and they have put their trust and their hope and they've given their heart to the Lord, they are in paradise with him. Just like Jesus said to the thief on the cross, he said, "This day you shall be with me in paradise." And that moment on the cross has been so impactful to me, because for salvation, so many times we're say this prayer, and use kind of this formula and this outline. But when I see the people that came to faith in the Lord in the Bible, and you see what they said, like the thief on the cross, and he was like, no, this man has done nothing wrong. He's like, remember me. That was his prayer. Like, that was his salvation prayer. He said, remember me. And then Jesus said, this day, like when you die, when you expire here, you will be with me in paradise. And so knowing that my grandma, she passed from this life immediately into paradise, to the arms of the Lord, to see all of our loved ones that have gone before us, and then to know that she's now in the great cloud of witnesses, cheering me on, cheering on the generations, praying, and she's going to see the fruit of her prayers. She was the first one in our family to come to Jesus.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
Yes. And
so her inheritance continues to come like Abraham.
Yes.
You know. So.
And so I have this rich spiritual heritage passed down to me because grandma came to know the Lord. And my dad was explaining to me that she came to know the Lord because missionaries went out from the United States back in like the 19 teens to Dominican Republic, which is a very Catholic country, religious Catholic. And they came to share the gospel. And she heard the gospel message, and
how
she came to the Lord.
Amazing that she received it.
That she received it, and it changed everything. And she led my dad to the Lord, and then my dad married my mom, my mom was a new believer, and then here we are, teaching our children, I'm teaching my girls about the Lord, and they're loving Jesus. So
oh, how beautiful.
Yes. And so that's what I mean. Like there is that joy and that hope of Resurrection Sunday mixed with the grief. But then I think about the life of Jesus. I'm like, that's what it was. He walked in the joy of the Spirit, but then he was experiencing all the human side too. So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's something about, I've been studying that, something about understanding the cross and experiencing that, like reading it, but not just reading it, like experiencing it draws you closer into him because you're really receiving it more, you know. So
yes, that reminds me, and I know we're like jumping around here, but that reminds me of, so on Sunday, like I feel like this was my birthday present, was The Chosen season 2 episode 1 premiered, and I hope you guys got a chance to watch it. You watched it with your family. We watched it. And you can check it out still. You can get the Chosen app, or you can check out the YouTube, and that's one thing I love about that show, is that it takes the things that we have read so often in the Bible, and it shows you from a different perspective, and you get to experience it as you watch it. And you're like, oh my gosh, I never thought of it that way. And it's you get, you can feel some of that. You can experience it instead of it just being head knowledge from like reading logos and head knowledge.
That's what I like, the Passion of the Christ, but even in that, it's still like watching a movie. Like, this brings you into a relationship type, like how the Inner Circle was and everything, so it's kind of cool. I realize it's a TV show, but it has a lot of stuff in there that's really cool. So
one of the scenes that really struck me was when Jesus was talking to a group of people, and there's a shepherd there, and he's like, if you lose a sheep, what do you do? So we read it in the parable. It was a fresh perspective because we read that as Jesus is saying it, but in that scene and in that he was interacting with the shepherd, and he was like, well, what do you do if you lose one? And the shepherd's answering the story that we have read so many times, and he's like, no, I go after my sheep. And he's like, then what do you do when you find it? He's like, I put it on my shoulders, and then I come back and celebrate it. And that's how Jesus feels about every single human person. That blows our mind. That blows our mind. Like, when I think about history and humanity and how we have caste systems and class systems and the lower classes and all of this stuff, and how Jesus, every single human being, he loves so much, and he says, this is the will of my Father, that no one should perish, but everyone should come to the kingdom.
I mean, I even struggle with that. Like, sometimes I feel like I'll pray and he'll answer, and I hear his voice when I read. He leads me in a certain direction and everything. But then when I think he loves me, it's like, oh God, it's hard for me it's hard for me to receive. You know, it's hard for me to put into that perspective. Like, he loves me. He would search for me. He did.
He did.
He did. And he's walking with me now. And he leads me. It's crazy.
Yeah. And even in my own life, like, God is so amazing. He knew, even before my grandma was born, like, he knew she would be born. He knew that she would have the opportunity to come to faith. And in his sovereignty, he doesn't control us, but he knew that she would choose him. And then he already knew that I was coming. And that he knew that one day I get to stand on the shoulders of grandma and the generations that have gone before, the shoulders of my dad and all of that. And I get to go higher and further than their.
And you're a part of your
level.
grandma's testimony.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
That's amazing.
And Kalani and the girls, did she know Kalani and
no, she has seen pictures of them, but they had never met.
And they're a part of her testimony, you know? And then their children. It's like, oh my gosh, this blows my mind.
Yes.
Yes. So cool.
Yeah.
He didn't just throw us out there and say, oh, this is a beautiful creation, go do what you do. Like, I think, you know how if you're a good mom, on your first, second, you might create a good baby book for your child. You know?
Yeah, I hear you.
I think when I get to heaven, he's going to have my book, and he's going to be like, see, you know, I like you when you did this, and when you did this, and, you know, like, I was there for you, you know, it's just like,
yeah,
it was all written in the book. It's so beautiful.
Yes.
So, yeah, thank God for Resurrection Sunday.
Yes.
I was thinking about that Friday, Saturday. Think of how horrible Saturday must have felt. Well, Friday and Saturday.
Yeah.
All hope lost. And that confusion of like, did he just say these things? And he was lying?
It's a terrible feeling to feel manipulated or deceived, like you've been deceived, and that you were giving your life away for something that's not real. Like, that's a terrible feeling.
But I have to wonder, I'm sure that crossed their minds.
And the grief.
Well, and if you think they didn't have the Holy Spirit inside of them either, so they must have felt so lonely.
Yes.
So empty. Yeah. I mean, at least we have the Holy Spirit inside of us now, you know. But, and how quickly did they just sell it off and be like, can't believe I was dumb. You know. And
then the grief of someone you loved. You know, they were grieving.
Yeah, well, and you know, when I say that, I don't think they did completely. I'm sure that all those emotions came to them, but weren't they were praying in the upper room, weren't they? When was it Mary that
A lot of
when Jesus came
together.
to Mary,
and
she ran back to tell them, right?
And he said, "Go to my brothers."
So they were, you know, they were
together.
Yeah.
Yes.
But you think about it. Who were the ones that went? One of them went back fishing.
Was it Peter?
I think
they were
maybe.
like fishing.
I think maybe, yeah. He just went back to his old job. Like, well, guess that's over. You know, like.
But they also needed to eat.
So you think he was?
It's like how they're gonna eat because they've been traveling.
Yeah, I think that's true. I don't know. These are things, but was it? And not that the Chosen knows everything, but like, was it in Chosen in the last season? No, they haven't got there yet. But at one point, what am I thinking of?
Maybe the Passion.
Maybe
of the
I'm
Christ
thinking
or
of
something.
I think I'm thinking of the Passion. Of the Christ. I think they said they couldn't sit there. Two of them said they couldn't sit there, so they went out. And went fishing.
Okay.
But I guess I don't know if I've heard in a sermon or what, or a different perspective that they were just like.
I have heard that too.
sit here and I'm just, I'm just going
to. They went back to their occupation.
Yeah. But those are interesting things to think about, because the human nature can mess with your faith. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
The intellectual side of things.
Yes.
And, but think about when they saw him. I think.
Oh, I think that's me. Oh, there we go.
It's just vibrating. That's it. But, where were we?
When they saw Jesus. So there's a movie called Risen. And it is from a different perspective. It's from the perspective of a Roman soldier. The crucifixion and resurrection. And the movie picks up with this soldier who goes, and Jesus is already dead on the cross. He's hanging there dead. And in the movie, they're searching for the body. And then in the movie, he has this moment. It's incredible, where he finds the disciples all together, and Jesus is there. And he saw him. He has seen him on the cross. And then he sees him sitting there, and he's like, he just falls. He's against the wall, and he just falls down. The movie's amazing, Risen. We watched it Saturday night in preparation.
On what?
You can watch it on PureFlix, but we have the movie. You can buy it online.
I want to borrow yours.
Yes, yeah. You're more than welcome to. It's so powerful, and it's from a different perspective. It's very like Roman, like that.
Well, that's
process
cool, because that's
how
a different
they work.
mindset. Yeah.
Yes, and it's so powerful. And but you're right. Like that moment where they were like, they saw him. Like,
well, think about Thomas, doubting Thomas.
Yes.
When he
I
wanted
love
to,
Thomas.
He wanted to just stick his hands in his side to see.
Yes.
Like
I think we have thousands of Thomases.
Oh yeah.
Throughout the ages.
Yeah, and I mean, the intellectual mind.
Yes.
That's not possible. So that would be a huge struggle.
Yeah.
So. But he's so good. He rose, and I got to have that conversation with Fisher the other day. I mean, we've talked about this in the past, but I was talking to him. I was like, what do you think he did when he died? What happened? Where did he go? What was he doing? And I was like, he went to hell, and he took the keys back. And Fisher was like, what? Like, yeah, he did. And he's like, you know what sucks? He's like, I'd hate to have been one of those good people, or those people that believed before he died on the cross, because then you'd go to hell. I was like, oh, no. Do you remember Lazarus? It was Lazarus, right?
Yeah, Lazarus.
Okay, yeah, and the rich man, and I told him about how the rich man wanted water, but, and all that, and he's like, oh, I was like, so he saved them too. And that's exactly what I was going to say. So the first fruits, and I said, you know what's crazy about that? Now, it says in the Bible that when Jesus resurrected, that other people did too.
Yes.
That's the first fruit. He's the first fruits.
Yes.
But then those people came along with him. And it doesn't really clarify, but that has to be the people in Abraham's bosom, right? Can you imagine that?
Up. Yeah. Wow.
I wonder if that's...
I hope we get to watch a movie of that in heaven. Like, he gets to, like, roll back the camera and be like, this is what's happening on the spiritual side of things.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Well, and then that makes me think, I mean, this is just me thinking, guys, but, like, when the resurrection comes, when the rapture.
Yeah.
When the rapture comes, it says the dead will rise first.
Yes. That's going to be crazy.
Yeah. But... are they going to walk around for a few days?
And testify? I don't know. Yeah.
So.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Lots of fun things to think about.
So you had a poem that your friend shared with you?
Yes.
Okay.
And it is she wrote this for Resurrection Sunday, and it's a little late because obviously, but we thought that it would be good to read today because it kind of puts you. Okay. Put your glasses on, Anna.
Yes, I need my glasses.
Hey, I have contacts
when you're older,
and I still couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So.
When you're older, I'm almost 40. I need my glasses.
That makes me even older.
All right. So here we go. I think it's just from the perspective of Jesus. I walked along the dusty trail he'd walked so long ago. I walked that path and felt the shame only he had known. I tried to imagine the crown of thorns they'd push upon his head, felt the tears on my face, not the blood he has shed. I felt the heavy burden of a cross, too much to bear, felt the lashes of those whips, the pain he'd never share. When I gazed upon the place where God's own lamb was slain, unable to imagine his agonizing pain, what he did for me that day, what only he could do, my heart belongs to him, and my soul is now his too. And to this day I owe him everything I am, willing to serve him only. He is the great I am. That's beautiful.
Isn't that cool?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's, putting yourself there, like, because I've thought about that too, like, you think, what if that was my husband or my mom or my, somebody that you love dearly, that you watch them walk that path, watch them beat him. I feel like I'd have just wanted to run out there. Like, why didn't they? Why didn't the disciples run out there and just, I mean, I guess they knew that they would probably die if they did that, but
Yeah.
maybe you do die. I don't know. Like, I guess it didn't happen because it was God's will for him to die. And it wouldn't have worked any other way. So maybe somehow the Lord was ministering to them through it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting to think about that.
I love, our pastor was sharing on Resurrection Sunday, and I love what he said. He said, the Romans didn't kill him. It wasn't the Jews that killed him. Jesus said, I give my life willingly. And he that's what he wanted to do. He came because he saw, God is outside of time. We live in chronos in time, but he's outside of time. He sees past, present, and future all at the same time. And so he saw, like, all the generations and all the harvest and all the people that were going to be coming into the kingdom. And it was for the joy of us that he came and died and gave his life willingly. That's amazing. And he knew that when was the right time and when wasn't the right time. Like, there were so many times they tried to throw him off the cliff or stone him or whatever, and he would escape and he would disappear from the crowd, and he would, because it wasn't the right time. And then when it was the right time, he was like, you know where to find me.
And he cried over it, and he bled tears over it because his flesh did not want to do that. I can't. Oh,
yeah.
But, well.
Yeah.
Well, I hate to cut this short, but I know my mom is outside. I just heard her. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So, do you have anything else you want to read or anything?
No, that was great. That was good. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we will see you guys next week, and thanks for coming, and have a great week.
Bye, guys.